I have the pleasure of calling on Ekong.
So hi everybody, thank you for the introduction, Isosa. As she mentioned, I'm a business advisor and project manager, and I've been working across two sectors really, business advisory services and local economic development, particularly in Africa over the last 10 years. But you know, what lessons could I possibly teach such an amazing group of women here that we have? But I want to tell my story a little bit to inspire, as well as talking about some of the harsh realities, because if we're talking about sustaining and building on progress, we have to know where we're coming from before we can start talking about what we can do next. Nigeria is doing very well in terms of projecting, pushing many business women to the fore. They're very visible. We have a lot top business women. 21% of Nigerian business women are represented on boards, which is a lot better than some other countries. However, in terms of politics, there is not great representation of women, particularly in Africa. So when we're talking about sustaining and building, we need to talk about these in context of culture, politics, commercial, and social. So how do we sustain and progress in the things that we're doing already? In my view, the first aspect is what we do ourselves. How do we choose and challenge? One of the topics for Women's International Day today is choose to challenge. You know, and I think one of the biggest areas of progress that we can make and pushing forward is to make sure we as women, and some of the women have already said this today, we as women, we must challenge discrimination when we see it. We must challenge when we witness discrimination, particularly on gender equality. You know, also in terms of representation socially, we all know that in terms of our culture, in terms of how we move in this world, we know very much in terms of women, we are not recognized as much as we should be, particularly socially. You know, our experience, I'm a mentor, and I mentor business women globally, and I mentor a lot of business women across Africa. And one of the biggest challenges we face is culturally and at home. How do we overcome some of these barriers? How do we push on when we're not within our cultures, not accepting and pushing women forward? Ngozi said something really interesting in her interview on Friday, which I watched. She says something very interesting about how we can, how we can build and sustain gender equality and push forward and progress in this area is what we do at home. When you have a household, I'm from a household with all girls. Very traditional Nigerian household with all girls. My father, thankfully, was the kind of man that pushed and didn't see any gender stereotypes. But how many of us can say that is the homes or the environments that we're operating in? So again, some of the things that we can do to sustain and push forward our activities is to ensure that even at home socially, that we are bringing up our children and working in an environment where we don't promote gender stereotypes, where we don't expect to see the woman in the kitchen, or we expect to see women in the boardroom, we expect to see women running business. Coming on to the subject of business, sustaining and building on progress, when we look at the gender gaps in business, they're huge. There's huge gaps in terms of investment finance that women access. There's huge gaps in terms of business education that women don't access. So how do we build on the progress that we've made around business development? For me, one of the essential things is building community. Building community, just like what Nigeria Magazine has done, bringing women together like this to dialogue, to share stories, to share our experiences in this world. And in terms of business, share our experience of business, share our experience of knowledge, because in the space of business, we need support from our sisters. We need support from the business community. And I think The communities that have worked really well for me are those ones where they have a platform. You have an online platform where you can go and share ideas with people. You can upload your stories. You can join in meetings. You can get free mentoring. Those types of things I think are absolutely essential if we're going to progress and drive the agenda of women's equality globally. We still have a very long way to go in terms of what we have to do. We need to bring together all of us. The journey is with everyone, both men and women. And the way, again, building and sustaining on progress means that we must all move together. We must all move together in this journey. We must all be fearless in challenging discrimination when we see it. We must try from our lives, our own personal lives, to ensure that we do not increase gender stereotyping. You know, it happens all the time, even when we don't realize it. These small little messages that you give to people that make you lose your confidence. A great example can be, for example, one of the things that happened when I was going to meetings again, I always quote Ngozi because she was great in this. One of her 10 tips is our hair, your hair. We know that very much how much we're judged on what we look like. And one of my first experiences when I went back to Nigeria and was doing conferences, I was doing speaking panels, etc. Oh, hey, they would tell me about your hair. Why you don't wear your hair nice? What about your shoes? Why you? So we still have a lot of those challenges that we have to meet, but we must ensure that when we're faced with them, we must keep challenging those stereotypes. So for me, moving forward in terms of how we progress on it is what we do as a community, what we do in terms of coming together to share stories, coming together to lift our sisters as well. I want us to have a community where we always want to support women and bring them up with us. I want to be in a community where I can share my story and I can share my mentor and I can be mentored by women that have graced us in terms of leadership. We have so much to learn from communities like. I would love to see us create an online space where we can share these stories. A bit like a Nigerian magazine, maybe this is something that you can help us set up, an online community for women, African and Caribbean women, where we can share those stories, we can mentor each other, we can share opportunities with each other, that kind of community, which I think is something that we can build on progress. Other things that we can think of doing, this is where it becomes maybe a little bit boring in terms of monitoring our progress. You know, what is our baseline? Where are we now at the moment with women and equality? Where do we want to be in 10 years' time? Because really, when you look at a lot of statistics, we've made little progress in many years, and this is globally. We've made little progress in terms of gender equality. So I think what's essential is we need to monitor and we need to keep reviewing and checking these things year in, year out, so we make real progress and we set ourselves targets. What do we want to see achieve in our own work? You know, I want to, my targets for the year, for example, is making sure that I support 5 women's businesses to access finance, for example. I've set myself these targets. I run a social enterprise. So all the profits that we make goes back into supporting women in business, goes back into supporting women's leadership, goes back into supporting training and development. That's how we build and sustain progress, is how much we ourselves want to invest in our own futures. Thank you.